Have to disassemble or remove the instrument cluster again. Before we jump into the video, I would like to note that this video was nearly 5 hours long, days of filming, hours of editing just to get it where it is now. There were so many different methods I tried to get this tachometer to work that wasn't producing any promising results, so I left those parts out. By me leaving those parts out, the video may seem inconsistent, jumpy, may sound repetitive in some scenes, but I want to add the necessary things that I thought that would help others out. So we're going to skim through it, and forgive me if it does seem all over the place. I just wanted to show the things that I thought would help others out. With that being said, let's jump into the video. Because out of nowhere, my tachometer's not working. Been working fine. One time, guys. I was idling, guys. Everything works. And I've been doing some of everything, just tracing wires. I even have the coil wire off because I've been testing different coils to see if that was a problem. All these work perfect. And I'm not getting a reading. I'm gonna show you guys the different wirings for these cars. One of them has the 4 wiring setup, one has the 6 wiring setup, and the tachometers. And maybe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. If you know a little bit more than me, I know these cars very well. I've broke down 8 of them, and I'll show you guys that too. It's the one that I've never shown that I got, so that'll be kind of one of the last videos I do on this car. I did mess with wires over here, so I'm gonna backtrack everything before I put everything back nice and neat. But let's test and see if our wires are putting out. Using this old Sun Pro tester that I got, wanted to connect the positive to the negative side on the coil, distributor side, and just ground it somewhere. Got it ground right there, and turn this thing on. 8/7. Alright, make sure ain't no wires or nothing in the way of the belt or the fan. I think we should be all good. Alright, let's start this thing up. Oh, let me hook this wire up. I got some dielectric grease on these plugs too. Let's see if we're getting some reading. Just threw me for a loop. Out of nowhere, tachometer won't work. So let's put the tripod there. This section of the video was before me previously talking about the 3 coils that I tested out. I was just showing you guys here that the tachometer, the coil is reading for the tachometer, just the tachometer is not reading in the car. So we're going to pass this part up, go to another part because I go deep here as well. Okay, we're gonna get down to the bottom of this tack. Just stopped working for no reason, and I'm gonna go through Vaslins to find out what caused it or why is it not working, and take you guys along with me. So remove my cluster completely. It has this adapter or reducer on it. This is the plug for it. Put this back and show you guys what I'm gonna do. So If you look at this plug, there's 2 tabs on each end. One little raised section here for a slot on this. So it only fits in one way. And it has 3 prongs in here.
You're gonna put the tools away, right?
Yep. It has 3 prongs in here. Despite this plug having about several wires. Let's see how many it has in it.
Dad.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Dad.
2, 4, 6 wires.
You have 2 seats, right? In here?
We got 6 wires there on this plug compared to another one. Let's go see another one, a few of them, or a different instrument cluster for that matter. Before we go to doing some continuity testing or testing for 12 volts here, what stopped that from working? And we're gonna figure all this out right now. So this is an instrument cluster out of a V6. It doesn't have that adapter on it. I'm gonna show you guys one out of an A7 as well. I took a picture of it. I ultimately sold it. I removed this cluster from out of a 1976 Mustang that was equipped with the V8 or factory V8. It has a 120 mile an hour dashboard or cluster, and identical to the black Mustang with the adapter as well, same color adapter and all. The one I'm showing you right now is out of a V6, a 1977 with the 4-wire setup. We don't get into detail about the 4-wire and 6-wire setup in the tachometers. It has that adapter on it, but if you can see, it has that slot. So I don't know if that plug will fit, but we're gonna find out everything. See a slot here for that raised section on that connector. I also want you guys to take a mental note of the offset of that slot for the plug. And this came with the 4-wire setups, and the model number on the back of this tachometer is totally different from the. It's different from the, not totally different, but it's different from the one with the white adapter on the back of it, whereas the slot is centered, not offset like this one, or the 6-wire setup. And it has these 2 tabs for the connector to see if it lock in place. So that tab may fit on this, and we do know for a fact this one works fine. This tack works perfectly. This one works fine. I know this for a fact. Whereas mine was working fine, but it stopped. So let me show you guys something interesting. I've been going over all these books. This is a parts book. The part for that adapter is not in this book, which is odd. This book breaks down things a little bit more. If you go to here, it shows you a lot more stuff for this vehicle. Another book, this book from 77, but it shows. Let's see. It shows you instrument cluster removal, but it doesn't get deep into this. And this is a Mustang 2 specific book. It does show the back of the cluster. However, it doesn't show that adapter or that reducer in the back. And it just shows you the typical removal, but it does break it down.
I'll be right back, Dad. Dad, I'm coming back, okay, Dad?
All right. So let's go a little bit farther. Let me take you guys with me somewhere, because I'm curious about these things, and I wouldn't have never got this deep if my tack didn't stop working. I don't know why. It's been working perfect, fine, and it just out of nowhere stopped working. So only change I made was the coil. That's it. And I put the old coil back on and still doing the same thing. So let's get to the back and I'll show you guys something interesting. Before we go to the back, I want to show you all this book. I didn't show it just now, but this book doesn't have that adapter in it as well. And this is the final book they produced on these cars, I believe, before they went over to the Fox body. This was the last year of the Mustang 2 books being produced by Haynes or Children, if I'm not mistaken. White car, so 77. This was originally a V6 car. Look at the plug on this one. It's brown, but 4 wires. And I'm about to show you guys something interesting. Let's get a little bit deeper in this before we go to doing some testing. Now maybe I'm quite sure this will help you guys out, but we're gonna go a little bit deeper. It's a brown plug. But I removed this cluster just to show that this cluster didn't have that reducing, and it's V6 car. But we're gonna look at a 4-cylinder harness as well, and another V6 and another V8. I want to know before I go on to the next car, I installed a V8 in this car. Tach works for perfect. I didn't have to make any alterations or anything. Works fine, and maybe because it's wired directly to the tach, whereas I don't know if the other one is, but we're gonna find out. This green wire goes to the tach. We're getting 12 volts, I believe, at this red wire. The black is the ground. I gotta figure this gray wire out. Has some little black dots on it. But I know what the green, black, and red is for. Let me show you guys something. All right, we're gonna start here first. This was removed out of a 1978. The car had a V8 in it, 302. However, this car originally came with a V6. This was the original V6 car. Here's the plug. A lot of the wires, most of the wires are the same for the main connector to the instrument cluster. Here's the plug for the tachometer. It didn't have that reducer or adapter on it, and the tachometer worked fine. I do want to note that it was an 80 miles per hour cluster that was in that 78. And like I said, this is from 1978. That was originally a V6 car. All right, let's move on to the next one. Here is 1978 out of a 4-cylinder. Back in the day when someone had this car, they changed the motor to a V8. Let me show you guys what they did. So here's the main connector to the instrument cluster, and here is the 4-wire setup out of a 78 4-cylinder car. This is the 4-cylinder car. This is the 4-cylinder fuse box. This one's the V6 fuse box. And the person who owned this vehicle, the 78, that came with the 4-wire setup with the brown plug, they changed it to the white plug. And look what they did. Look at the wiring, how it's wired. And this is some insight for me. A lot of those wires, those 6 wires are doubled. You guys can see inside their connector. A lot of those wires are doubled. I stopped it here because we're going to go over this plug and wires a little bit more in detail a little later. I wasn't sure at this point of the wiring, so we're going to skip past this. So, moving along to here, this is out of a 1977 V8. I know I said I was going to skip past this part or skim through this part, but I did want to show the other harnesses. I'm going to show a few more in a little bit, but at this point I was still somewhat unfamiliar with the wiring between, or the difference between the 4-plug and the 6-plug wiring, and we're going to get to all of that, trust me, towards the end. But let's skip past this part. At this section of the testing, I was just trying to figure out which wire was receiving, or which wire was receiving the 12-volt source when the key was turned forward to power the tachometer up, and that's what we're going to see right now. And then we'll skip past this and go to something else because I spent too much time filming this section. Okay, 12 volt on the right side. This should be nothing. The ground is there. Okay, we got 12 volt here. You see the light up? They light up. So 12 volt here. Nothing on the tach side. The ground is grounded. So with the key forward, we're getting 12 volts here on that yellow and pink. 12 volts is there. This red wire is not 12 volts. The black wire, of course, is the ground. So how it was wired up on another plug, and I thought this was the 12 volts. This is actually was going to the coil, that in that brown or purple, whatever color wire it is. It looks pink and brown. That's exactly what color it is. Pink and brown. Pink and brown wire. We're gonna stop here at this part because I'm still not sure what's what, and I just thought it was worthy of me showing this part or you guys seeing what's powering up with the ignition turn forward. So I still do further more testing in this part of the video as well. Lots of testing here, but I'm not really getting anywhere. So we're gonna skim on through all of this, but just wanted to show this part. All right, let's do a continuity test now. Just for the record, without the key turned forward, we're not getting 12 volts. It's showing green, but turn the key forward. I'm trying to do this one hand. You're getting 12 volts. Turn the key back, it shuts down. Let's do a continuity test real quick. All right, we're about to do a continuity test. So we connect it to the side of the coil where that green wire is. Turn the continuity. And if we go over here, if I probe into this, we should get some noise. All right, you guys can hear the beep. Let's test it on the back side. All right, that's fine. Connection's fine. Let's go on the inside. Let's see what we got. Listen for the beep, guys. Let's see. It was this wire. It's beeping. Definitely beeping. So the wiring's good. The wiring is good. I'm stopping here again, so get familiar with this process throughout this lengthy video so I can save you guys as much time as possible, because time is very valuable and I don't want to waste you guys' time if I don't have to. So I'm trying to show some key things. However, this 6-wire setup doesn't work like this. Although we're getting continuity, I just don't believe it works like this. Well, I'll explain later how I believe it works, and it shows that when I'm going through the wiring and when I get my tachometer to work. Alright, let's test this out as well. Let's remove that from the cluster. So we're setting on, this is the sheet. I'm going to be careful as possible with these clusters. They're very fragile. 1/4 inch. So let's test these for continuity. It says GCB, CGB. So B is here, C and G. So this is the B on this side. Let's touch it over here. We're on B, and this is the B here. Okay, that's good. Let's test the C. This is the C. C is here. Nothing from the C. All right, let's test the G. So we getting contact, we getting continuity at the G and the B. I want to interject here because we're getting continuity at the B terminal and the G terminal. B is where the 12 volt signal comes in when you turn the ignition forward to this adapter. It comes in through the B side of this adapter, and the G is the ground. So we're getting continuity there. The C, I believe, through this adapter gives off the tach signal, opposed to the tach signal reading from the negative side of the coil, and I'll talk about that towards the end as well. So let's skip to another part. I was going to test my cluster in the white and blue Mustang, but it's not going to work unless I go out and cut some plugs, and I'm not cutting anything. Just got to figure out why mine's not working. You guys can see. Look at that slot for that notch, that tab, and the slot is in a totally different spot here. So this is the 120 narrow cluster. This is my cluster, and this is the cluster for the white and blue car. So if you look at the tachometer model number for the 4-wire setup, which is this one, the D7ZF, and the one I'm going to show right now, which is the 6-wire setup, it's D5ZF with the dash and the 17360. They're two different model numbers, and I strongly believe that 4-plug and 6-plug setup read differently. They read totally different as far as with the wiring. The differences are within the design for the plug. Can't even test it out, but it does have that spot for this adapter. Can't even attach this to test it. You can see it's not gonna work. Here at this section of the video, I want to show if you decide to install an aftermarket tachometer, just in case you didn't get the OEM working correctly. It's super easy. Just use the 12-volt side of that plug that I showed you all when you turn the key for it, the red wire and the red and yellow wire, and just use that as your hot. Use the black wire in that same plug as your ground, and just run one wire from the negative side of the coil to give the signal to the green wire on the tachometer. It's just that simple, and it'll power right up and work perfectly. So just showing it here. I filmed two different versions of this part of the video where I show the aftermarket tachometer working fine off the coil. However, I deleted the one that I should have kept because this is the one when the wire fell off the coil, and I thought I deleted that one, but yeah, I deleted the wrong one. So here's the one when the wire fell off the coil. Okay, we're gonna dig a little bit deeper into this. This is harness off of a 4-cylinder. It's kind of chewed up. This is the engine bay harness, and this is off of the V8, the 76. So this should be nearly identical to mine, with the exception of someone cut all the light sockets off of it, but everything should be there. So we're gonna go over all of this. I'm currently scoping this harness out, just finding where wires are located, tracing the wires for that tachometer. I got schematics for the 4-cylinder and the 6-cylinder, but I don't have nothing for the 8 cylinders. Once again, trying to save you all some time. This is days of work, days and hours and hours and hours of work of me going over this complete harness. I have 4 complete harnesses for the interior, which consists of 2 harnesses, one for the dash, one that runs back to the fuel pump or fuel sending unit in the tail light section, and there's a third one under the hood, which kind of broken down in a couple different sections. So I have 2 underneath the hood harnesses, 4 for the dashboard and 4 for the back. So 4 complete harnesses for the interior and 2 for underneath the hood. I have 3 of them, 2 of them that goes for 8-cylinder engines, 1 goes for a 4-cylinder engine, and 1 goes for a 6-cylinder engine. Here I'm just going over everything, showing you all, trying to narrow down those tack wires, and just doing continuity tests, figuring out what wires go where by plugging the underneath hood harness to the fuse box to see where the wires run out and what goes where. And I would slow down this and show you guys if I thought there was some information that I'm going to leave out towards the end of this video. This is specifically for the tachometer, nothing else. Alright, so you guys can see that's that yellow and red wire, or pink if you want to call it. It's more red than pink. And I'm on this yellow and red there, getting continuity. So the brown wire, let's test this brown wire. Let's see where this is going, because he has it connected to the brown wire, but the yellow and brown wire touches. They're connected in the connector. So I don't know why they wouldn't feed. Oh, it doesn't matter. It didn't matter. Wow. It didn't matter if they used the yellow and red or the brown wire. This is not necessarily the tack wire, although it's adjoining the yellow and red wire. Right in my face, my goodness, right in my face. So they could have used the yellow, red wire or the brown wire to connect to this 4-wire setup and would have got the same outcome, because it's that same plug plugs into the same side where this is connected. So it don't matter which one they use. So right in my face, could use either one. Light bulb popped up super fast on that one, guys. Whoever did this could have severed the brown wire here and used the yellow and red one. It would have made things much easier, but everything I just mentioned previously was correct. Well, here in this section is correct, and I thought I may have nailed it or figured out why or what was wrong with my tachometer, or at least point me to what's wrong if I have a bad tachometer or not. But that wasn't the case still. After going over all this, it still wasn't the case. But I did find out where every single one of those wires run. I'm going to show you. I'm going to tell you guys where those wires run. Okay, I only have just a tachometer plug into the cluster. So let's see if we can wake this tachometer up. Let's connect the battery and let's see what we get. All in one motion. Fingers crossed. Got the fan on. With a larger fan if I need. Let's see. Let's see if we can wake this tachometer up or if we woke it up. This has set me back some days. If it works. Come on, fingers crossed. Let's go. I didn't have any more gas in the car. It ran out of gas a few tries ago. And yeah, I got to put some more gas in it. As you all can see, we're not getting a reading from the plug itself on the inside, but if I take the wire from off the plug on the inside and run it directly to the coil, you guys can see we're getting a cold start reading here, idling, running well, but nothing from the plug in the inside. So let's do something. Let's try something. Let's plug the adapter directly to the plug itself and see if we get a reading. I do want to note, I took that adapter apart. I was looking for anything that I need fixing. I was going to fix it no matter what. But I clamped it thoroughly real good. Now I'm going to show that. I clamped it thoroughly. I took it completely apart and I clamped it thoroughly. So let's plug it up and see what we got if we get a reading. Okay, I'm measuring current from the adapter itself. And what I'm learning with these setups, it doesn't get a tack reading from the ignition core per se. It runs on the plus side of ignition core. We're gonna measure some current from the adapter. paused it here because you guys see that voltage drop. The first socket I went to was the B side of that adapter, which is the 12 volt side coming into that adapter. And the voltage drop is what you want to see here. That's very important for this adapter, which is functioning perfectly now. That voltage drop is what you want to see, and that's on the C side, the side where I thought the tachometer is working from, feeding from the negative side of the coil. It wasn't that. It wasn't that. So now this adapter is working perfectly here. So the tachometer should work fine if it's nothing wrong with it. And if it was something wrong with it, I was going to take it apart too, but you'll see. Definitely getting a reading. So I have the ground here where the G is, and this is the 12 volt from the ignition to B, and the C is giving us the reading, I believe, for the tachometer here. There's no prong in here at all. We're getting a reading from the adapter. Got it working, guys. I got it working. Show you guys what I did. Running perfect, guys. After 4 days or 5 days and nights struggling and trying to figure out this thing, I finally got it. Now I can move on to putting the car back together and getting this thing ready to go. After dissecting that harness and a bunch of more, finally got it going. Trying to exhaust some of those exhaust fumes, trying to get them up out of the garage. Finally got it. Finally got it. So I'm going to conclude this video and I'll show you all the steps that I took. I did disassemble that adapter on the back of the cluster, and I'll show you guys that in a second. But here's both harnesses. I did find out some interesting things with these harnesses. This is the under the hood, inside cabin, and rear, with the exception of everything is there, but the tail lights has been cut from this. Everything is there. As you can see, this goes to the fuel pump or sending unit, and this goes back to the tail lights. But that's the third harness that goes to the back, plugs in there. This is the inside cab complete harness for the 302, and I'll show you all what I was able to find. Let me get a light, and I'm gonna mount the camera. You know what? I may put it here, up here. Let's put it up here, and we'll go over everything. This is 48 inches long and 30 inches in depth, so we got some space to put it up here. But it's best maybe if I got on the ground and show you all where the wires and where they ran. Not going to explain in great detail just yet, but just kind of show you guys the gist of the tachometer wiring. I already took this apart and cleaned it. And this was one of the things I recommend doing. There's some glue here at the seam. Just want to take a utility knife or a razor and just score it across. If you don't do this, you'll break it because these tabs won't come free because it's glued here, and this round peg sits in that slot right there. So I just want to start over here first. Remove these. Be delicate because this plastic is nearly 50 years old, so just want to take your time with it. Once you get both of those sides free, you want to work here. Like I said, you want to score this until all that glue is off. I've done all that already. Kind of work here. Press these through. And free them up. So that glue is here. You guys can see it. There's glue right there, and it holds this firmly on here, and this peg won't fit in this slot. So once you remove it, I removed the circuit board off. I inspected everything first. Everything looks really good here. Although I did spray it and clean it up. Make sure the wires were intact. And everything looked good. To get the circuit board up, you want to pry one of these ends backwards. So we can get in here with this one. Hold on, you gotta be careful with this too. Pull it back on. You want to raise it up over that lip. All right, once you remove it, you can kind of inspect the board for scorch marks or burned solder marks. Kind of inspect it to see if anything is burned or anything. Everything was fine here. And I cleaned these blades pretty good. Shined them all up. So pop it back in place. Raise this back. Make sure everything's all good. Like I said, I've already done all this, and we should be good. And just reinstall everything. Make sure when you put the cover back on, see this slot here? Make sure the wires fit in this slot. And that peg goes in this hole here. can see what I'm talking about there. That wires in that slot. And just snap it in place. Alright, we can attach it back to the instrument cluster. Let's take a look at those as well. You can also clean these blades, the blades on the tachometer. I clean those as well. I used just some sticky 220 grit and just stuck it on here, sandpaper, and just got down those blades. I already did this already. You guys can see they're super shiny. I already cleaned them up pretty good. So now we can reinstall the adapter. Make sure we got good connection. Got the screw, just gonna drill it in slowly. It's a magnetic bit. Till it pulls down on there. All right, it should be all good now. Let's reinstall the instrument cluster. Throughout this entire process to figure out which wires work the tachometer, going over all of these harnesses to figure out where the wires are located so I can trace them down to see if I had any torn or broken wires or frayed wires or cut wires. I did remove this engine. However, I removed this tachometer or cluster 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago, before I sent the car to paint, where it's sat outside a year and a half without no hatch, exposed to tons and tons of moisture. So ultimately, I believe the connector inside of the car got some moisture in it. That plug corroded a little bit, so I cleaned it out with a razor blade really good, the contacts in there. And as you guys can see, I cleaned the blades off on the adapter and the tachometer itself with some sandpaper and just making sure they were shiny and clean. Ultimately, I think that was my problem. Instrument cluster sat on the shelf for 2 years. Car sat outside for a year and a half before it got painted with no hatch on it and no car cover. So moisture got into the car, and I think that was the culprit for me. But I did learn a lot with the wiring. I hope this helped you all out with the wires as well. A lot of time spent when I just could have cleaned everything off. And I initially did, but I didn't clean the connector off, and it ultimately worked. So that's where I'm at. Okay, in closing, I'll show you guys exactly where the wires are ran for the tach, and I'll try my best to explain their purpose and hope this help. However, stay tuned for my channel. I'm gonna do something so kind of wild or out of the realm with things to come. It's a series that I'm starting on my channel in the future, and it consists of something like this, and it's going to be worth the watch of the vast extreme details and how meticulous I'm going to be in things of this nature or things that correlate to stuff like this. So be prepared for that. It's coming. All right, let me mount the camera. So we're going to go over this is what I believe. I don't know the years approximately because I have a 276. Well, my car, the black car is a 76. This is a 76 harness. I have a 77, two 77s, and a 78. And the 77 with the 6-wire setup came with that white adapter. I removed that cluster. So I thought the latter years they just went to the 4-wire setup, but I'm thinking it's maybe in 4 to 6-cylinder vehicles. I'm not sure. Maybe you guys can help me on that. But I do know this for a fact. Me having a 76, and I thought it stopped there, but the 77 harness is not. It's basically identical to this 76 harness. So with that being said, let me go over these 6 wires and where you can find them at along this harness, and this is the outside harness as well. All right, let's try to go over this really quickly. This 6-wire setup, from what I believe or how I see it after going over this harness, it doesn't function as the 4-wire setup, or probably a lot of setups, whereas the wire is running directly from the negative side of the coil for the tachometer. This works off of the positive side of the tachometer, which is kind of crazy. It's unusual, but it works off the positive side of the tachometer. And I say that this is the power. This feeds this red and either brown or yellow. We're gonna go with like a yellowish brown wire. So this red or brown or pink or brown, it's on the lines of the pink and reddish with the solid stripe. And if we chase this wire throughout this harness, it'll run all around here. It'll come over here, and it'll fuse into these 3 wires here. I'm not going to go in great detail, but this is where the power comes in at to the tachometer here. And these 2 wires, hold on, this wire and this wire are together in that plug. Let me grab that plug. Although it has been cut, you can see there go that pink or red wire with the solid brown or yellowish line, and it has that resistor. That's a resistor wire here. You guys can see here. It too has something on it. So, and if you look on this side, the brown in this plug is connected to this, the red and blue tracer wire, or light blue tracer wire. So these 2 are connected. I'm gonna show you where that's going as well for the tachometer. So these 2 is connected. Let's stay focused. This, however, this gray wire, well, let's start with the black. This is a ground. This is the ground for the 6-wire setup. This gray with the black tracer marks is absolutely has no purpose in this entire harness. I believe they left it there because it is in use, I believe, in the 4 to 6-cylinder harnesses, and we're gonna look over that as well. We're gonna look over the 4 to 6-cylinder harness as well to see, but I'm gonna show you why. So here it is. Here it is. Here runs all around here, runs around there, and you can see it here still, and it runs adjacent to our resistor wire and our red and blue wire. Before I get back to these, I just want to show that this is obsolete. Here's the wire. we can actually do a continuity test to show you guys. So you want to be consistent here. Make sure everything's lined up. So we'll hook up the continuity tester here. You're going to get that audible beep once we take our other lead and go to here. That's the beep. And testing for continuity. However, when we look into the plug, and I'm going to show you guys this red and green wire is actually these two wires turn into this red and green or light green or lime wire. I believe that is. Maybe it's white. I don't know. I've got some decent eyesight, but this wire here, it looks to be, we'll just say red and like a light green, or maybe even, I've cleared it off, maybe red and white, I don't know. Let's see. This is it here throughout the harness. So maybe a light green now. And if you look, here's the plug. Let's zoom back out. This is our red and blue, or light blue tracer wire from that tachometer plug. This is our resistor wire. I'll explain a little bit more about that in a second. If you plug it in here, if I can get it to plug in. You plug it in here, this wire turns into this red and light green, or whatever color you want to say it is, and it goes out. I'll show you guys where it goes in a second. But if you look at this is our black, our gray with the black tracer lines. Here it is here. It goes out to nothing, and that's on all of them. But we're gonna look at the 4 and 6 cylinder to see how it comes out of that possibly. I didn't look at that yet. I'm just not tracing that wire. So it goes to nothing. It's completely useless in here. There's no use for it on the tach. There's no place for it on the tachometer. It has no use in this harness. I just believe they left it there. So how I believe this system works, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it works off the positive side of the coil. It uses, this is a 1.5 resistor, 1.5 ohms, this resistor. It breaks the current down. So we get our hot. Let's go back to our wire setup. So these two are connected. So this is how I believe it works. This is our power when the ignition key is turned forward, right? And I thought it was this, and I'll tell you why in a second. I'll show you why. Power comes through here. These are connected in this plug together. The resistor wire chases the power out to here. It meets here. What also sends out, I believe, to the plus side of that coil, or it actually sends to the DuraSpark box. I'll show you guys that in a second. So let me zoom out some. I don't want to lose track of this. So here's that wire here that's in the plug that leads out from this wire. So I don't want to confuse y'all. Before I go over here, let me back up. So this is connected to here. Power comes through this resistor wire. It's breaking the current down, of course, and it sends it through here. Our red and blue, or light blue tracer wire sends it through here. So we're powering up the tachometer here. We're getting our signal, a much lower current here to the tachometer. It's also going into the outside of the cabin. I believe it hooks to the DuraSpark, and I'll show you guys that in a second, to the plus side. And this brown and pink wire is here. This section is broke off from the steering column, And here's our brown and that pink wire. So I thought the ignition switch triggered this, but I think because the other wires are cut on ignition, I think we get our power from a different source. I don't want to go too deep in this right now. I just want to show you guys a general overview of where the wires are ran. This is ran through here. This goes on the top of the steering column. Here's that black and pink wire. So not sure what this function is yet. I thought it was to send power, but obviously it's a lower current. It's a lower current because it's coming from here. It's through a resistor wire, so it's coming from here. So it's a lower current at this wire as well. And as you guys see, when I showed on the adapter, when I just installed the adapter in the car, that it was reading a lower current. And if you measure resistance on this, and I'll show you guys that, I'll show you the resistor wire, that it's around 1.5 as it should be. So I believe that adapter on the back of that cluster, on the back of that tachometer, emulates the pulse or the signal from the tachometer pulse to the negative side of the coil. So that's how I believe it works. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's how it is. It's not like the 4-wire setup whatsoever. So going back here really quick, here's that wire from here. Here's that wire, runs into this plug. And if you look here, what's connected to it, it runs out with the black and purple stripe wire. So these two are connected to this plug here. So this runs into the distributor. I think this runs to that side of the where the coil is at. My setup is a little different on my car, but here's that wire. It runs to this plug. Like I said, I'll be a little bit more technical soon. Also, what else I want to show you guys before we look at the other harness, and I hope you guys are just following me with this. I just want to show you where the tachometer wires is, and the resistor wire is. So here's that resistor wire that's running here. Here it is, and it tells you if I can get to zoom in. Resistor wire. It also says this in the book. Do not cut or splice. Let's measure the ohms, and I'll show you guys the ohms is putting out. So we're just gonna stick it here, and we're gonna connect the other lead to where it connects to the tachometer, and watch the reading. Oh, we're in the wrong thing. All right, there we go. That's disconnected. So .3 come out of it for a minute. Let's try again. So it jumps around. What you guys see is kind of jumping around. It's trying to stand at 1.3. But that's our resistor wire. So does have a resistor wire. I hope you guys found some of this helpful. But we're gonna look at that black and gray tracer wire really quickly in the 4 and 6 cylinder Hondas and see if it comes through. I believe I have a 4-cylinder under the hood harness. We'll see if we see that that gray and black tracer, that gray with the black tracer wire coming out of here. Let's go check that out really quickly. So by we looking at this, out the 78 6-cylinder car here, there with that tracer wire again, but with the green wire adjacent to it. It goes to the tachometer from the 4-wire setup. And here's a harness out of a 78 4-cylinder. And there go that green wire with the tracer wire. However, that gray wire is not there. It's like the other ones. It's not there. So maybe that's just a wire in the harnesses, maybe for other vehicles. I don't know, but it's not there. All right, that's it. Hope you guys found this video helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Terrence, I'm out.